that no matter what you do as a parent, there's going to be residual sort of trauma, these little micro traumas that get laid down because you're talking about the perception of the child, and every child has a different perception because they're different, they're unique beings.
Right.
But they are so hypersensitive to the environment because they need to survive, right? So that's really what it comes down to, and that's why as a parent, you do the best you can. You realize that you're going to traumatize them. Giving up this idea of the ideal parent, both as a parent and as a child, right, is important. And so they're going to be traumatized as a result of being born. And so your role is to try to minimize that as best you can, and also accept that that's part of life. And the beautiful part of that is that these traumas, if you want to call them that, these constructs that we develop as a result of these sort of micro traumas or major traumas, they are the skills that we use as adults that propel us forward, right? So the overachiever can be somebody like Steve Jobs. So now, not to say that he's a perfect human being, but he accomplished a lot because of his structures that he built and because of his internal natural genius, right? We all have natural genius, and we all have these sort of layered constructs. So they're not a bad thing. It's just we have an opportunity to recognize when they're maladaptive and bring them back into a little bit better balance as we get older, because the gifts that we develop, they get to stay with us. As we correct these maladaptive patterns, we get the gift still. The gift of the overachiever, or for me, it was trying to figure everything out. It was very mental, figuring out, good at problem solving, looking at the whole picture, because that's one of the things that I used as a means of safety, of understanding my environment. So we get to keep these. So it's resolving these traumas and bringing them back into balance, metabolizing, digesting some of them, and things that are stuck, we still get to keep the gifts.
And I think that that's so important that you said that, because I think that it could be easy for someone to deduce from this conversation. It's like, well, we're all fucked, and doesn't matter what we do, and we're just all going to hell in a handbasket. And I think that one of the things that I have not done any master plants yet. I've done some of the more synthetic. I've dabbled in MDMA several times, LSD, etc. But one of the things that it's given me is it's allowed me to unhitch. So it's just like you said, you get to keep the gift. I always thought that working myself until my eyes bled, right? Like working myself until I was burnt out was my advantage. Like I could always work harder and longer than anyone else. And you see in modern society, that is very much celebrated. That is an addiction that is very much celebrated. We see, the Steve Jobs example would be a really great one, where he probably worked himself to the bone. I've heard quotes where it's like, I may not be the most talented, but I'm the hardest working, so I've internalized those messages. But doing some of these psychedelic experiences, or having some of these experiences, have allowed me to unhitch the productivity aspect from my worth.